Welcome to my review of the Alpine BRV S65. It's brand new for 2026. A lot of you guys have the biggest question is how can I get the most bass out of a 6.5-inch speaker without a subwoofer? Well, I gotta admit, with these with 50 watts of power, will give you 3 to 4 and sometimes 5 times more bass output than a normal speaker. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use this Pioneer. I really like this Pioneer. It's a 3-way Pioneer. It actually won one of my biggest shootouts, but this one is roughly $149. I'm going to show you why a $299 speaker might be your best option to get the most bass with no subwoofer in the 6.5-inch location, which jump right in. Let's jump a little bit deeper into this Alpine. Now what you're going to see is they call it the HEDGE surround, and it's high excursion design gathered edge. And you're going to see by the photo I'm showing you here is it's square. It's a square surround, which you don't see very often. Now let's flip it over, and you're also going to see that now you have a 12 dB per crossover, which is great to see. This also has a point source tweeter or the concentric tweeter, and I've said this more and more. I love it. Now let's compare this to the Pioneer. Now the Pioneer is a 3-way. It's irrelevant in this conversation, but as you can see when I tilt it towards you, you see how this tweeter sticks out past the cone. What I don't like about that is that when I go to put it against a door panel or try and mount it tight, I can't because this tweeter's in the way. Now that being said, since the Alpine doesn't have, and I'll go like this just for the design, anything sticking out, this can go essentially almost tight against the panel as well. But I will say, since they have this HEDGE surround, I do have to space it out a little bit, but normally use a gasket or some kind of spacing tool, which I'll touch to in a moment. With this, trying to get the most bass out of your speaker, I do want to show one thing, is that these are very different, but not too bad. They're less than 3/4 of an inch in mounting depth difference. They are the same mounting flange, the same holes, so it will fit into most cars. What I prepared for you is you're going to see I have a 6.5-inch speaker just in a normal cardboard box, no shenanigans, and I have a glass cylinder over top, which kind of get this experiment going. Now, this is the BassRev speaker and this is the Pioneer, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them both like this, and I'm going to measure the energy that pushes this speaker forward. You might say, why am I doing that, okay? So if this represents your car, the cabin of your car, what happens is the speaker pressurizes the cabin of your car. Obviously, it's a crude representation of the cabin of your car, okay? So it's like a piston. The more oomph, the more energy it goes, it means the more output, the more feeling, the more fun, the more bass output. Okay? So the biggest thing is who can move the most air. That's why subwoofers that move the most air, you're like, oh, I can feel that, right? We can also agree, you felt the bass before, even at a club or at a home theater, you feel your pant leg move, right? So same idea. So what I'm gonna do is take this, I'm gonna put this on top of the speaker, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fill it full of these beads, okay? So simply put, I'm gonna power these with roughly 50 watts of power, and then I'm gonna see how high and how much energy each speaker has. Now you might say, well, that's kind of different. Yes, it is. And I don't know anyone else has done this experiment because a speaker X max, and I know I told you wouldn't go too into weeds, is how far a speaker moves up and down. Let's just put it to the test of, say, this speaker, roughly, which is called $179, this one at $299, and let's see if this is worth the $120 upgrade, or is it just one to keep? Or maybe this, hey, it's just all marketing and... Jumping right into the experiment, what we're doing is we're going to set the computer at volume 50, and then we're going to take the beads and we're going to pour them into the cylinder. The cylinder has an opening of 6.25 inches wide. It is fully glassed enclosure, and we're setting the amplifier at 50 watts. So both speakers will have exactly the same output and exactly the same impedance. Now we're going to take it, we're going to level out these beads and get it going. I think you get the idea. Let's power these suckers up. As you can see, the Alpine is going way higher than the Pioneer in this case. This is nothing against this speaker. It's just using it as an example. But look at the energy that Alpine has. You gotta admit, pretty crazy, eh? The difference of how high those beads went was absolutely crazy. I actually couldn't believe the difference as well. Now, also, Alpine's claiming that this works with our Optim 8 ecosystem, which is kind of a built-in equalizer that goes with their amplifiers and processors. So when you install this, you can actually program it in and does the crossover points, EQ, boosting, everything to maximize the speaker. Now I chose not to do this with the Optimate on because I didn't want to do the Pioneer without it and then do the BassRev with it or without it. I wanted to keep it kind of even keel right now, all right? I'm not saying you're not going to see a new experiment down the road. It looks like Alpine's actually done it. I actually was really impressed. The one big thing is noticing the amount of excursion on it. And that's just how far the beads pushed out. Now, that being said, and why I'm saying this, is that Pioneer, you know, rates that speaker at like 250, 300 watts. And it's not, it's whatever. What Alpine's done is having this much output with 50 watts of power. My hat goes off to them. Why? Because anyone can get a small amplifier to run 50 watts. And you know, small compact design, small anything, and get the maximum amount of bass. Now I am going to be doing another install with these as well, where I'm going to do it with a meter before and after, so you can hear the output difference between the factory and this one. But for right now, I think you'd agree, the Alpine BassRevs are looking pretty good right now, and it kind of proved it, that it does have 4 to 5 times more excursion than the Pioneer speaker in this case, all right? I actually think this is worth the upgrade of about, let's call it $150, depending on where you are in the world. I think it's worth it, especially if you don't want to go up the room and have a subwoofer. Now this makes a difference. Now, what if you powered this with a powered subwoofer? Now that might be an interesting idea, because then you get even a little bit of lows, but you still get the snort out of those door speakers, all right? If you're car audio crazy like me, let's stop rating everything by spec sheets and check marks and everything. Let's look deeper. Let's look at how much of a big smile it puts on your face when the sound hits. All right, that's what this did. I installed this in my vehicle, and I actually took them out to do a video on it because I wanted to share was how much bass came out of these speakers. I couldn't believe it. I thought it was a bunch of hoopla. Honestly, I did, and then I was blown away at the bass performance, and that's why I wanted to show you those illustrations of all those beads. If you like this style of video where I don't go deep into the weeds, I don't want to read you a manual, because you can read your own manual and do your own research. I got another video about here of where I test 3 6.5-inch speakers from Kicker, Hertz, and Pioneer, head to head, sound for sound, feature for feature, right on my channel.